Welcome back to another Ab Nation Live Tonight show with the hockey coach, your coach FRENCHY, directly for the beautiful country of Thailand. Tonight, on the great Wednesday night, February 22nd, 2023. We have only 3 games, by the way, and the NHL right now. Only one inactive. Islanders and Winnipeg. We are at the beginning of the third period. It's a 1-1 between the Islanders and the Jet. Tonight, we have a special edition or episode because we have a couple of guests join me live. So we're going to present them next couple of minutes. And the subject tonight is about the transparency of the Montreal Canadiens, about the injuries. We know the last couple of weeks now, the Montreal always try to not talk more about the injury. We never know as a hockey fans for Montreal Canadiens what's going on with the injuries. So we're going to have those kind of conversation tonight about the Montreal. We're going to talk about the trade deadline, the Ken Hughes situation before the end of the trade deadline. Is it quiet? Is it not going to be quiet? Then we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens for the next, what's coming for them for the weekend. We know they're going to play Friday, Saturday. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the NHL around the league, the wild card on the Eastern Conference, 6 teams involved, what we expect for the trade deadline between teams, who is going to be traded for the next couple of days. We're going to talk about 2 trades happening today on this Wednesday night, Wednesday, February 22nd. But so, well, not to welcome back. They are back. About what? I think a couple of weeks we did it together, and then we are back together. Welcome back, definitely. Our co-hosts, one for the warm-up show and one for the Ab Branch, your Sunday rendezvous. Welcome back, Marco Larrabee and Mr. Enartap and the house tonight.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Marco.
Hey, good to be with you again, Enartap. I missed you, buddy.
Likewise, buddy. Yeah, it has. Yeah, indeed. Looking forward to this.
We have a couple of people knock the door, so we're going to welcome them right away. And then before that, we're going to talk after that what's going on with the Montreal. Melissa Zabran from Detroit, Michigan, welcome back. Roger from Ontario is in the house. Both of you, welcome. We have Steve G from Denver is in the house tonight. Welcome back, Colorado Avalanche. Nicolas de Bobby-Bonneau from de la belle région de Sherbrooke, dans la belle province de Québec. Notre Nicolas est de retour avec nous ce soir. From Illinois, the number one fans of the Hawks, he's just waiting right now, sit on the couch waiting for 9:30 to game start. The Blackhawks visit the Star and Dallas at the American Airlines downtown, and of course of Dallas and Texas. Luciano Graziano, moderator, is in the house.
Lucky.
The Roadrunner, Gary Cournoyer, is in the house.
Hey, Gary.
And should the Leafs trade for Patrick Kane? Quick answer, Marco.
No.
With what money?
No, they should not.
All right. Zev Lecav is in the house. Zev Frey, welcome back. From Alberta, Randy Walkman is in the house. Number one fans of the
Calgary
Toronto Maple
Flames.
Leafs.
Calgary Flames.
I thought it was the Flame, but I mean.
I think it's Calgary.
Welcome back, Nam Tall. Carey Price forever.
Welcome.
Yeah, the Chicago Blackhawks make a trade. We'll talk about this in the next couple of minutes. Thanks to be with the Hockey Nation Live show tonight on a great evening on the Wednesday night. But tonight, we want to talk about, and then about the Montreal Canadiens transparency about injuries. It's still hush, like Marco said to me earlier today. And I would like to hear a little bit more what you think about this Montreal Canadiens. Yesterday, it was a great example. They lost Joel Armia, and of course, Martin said we all said after the game or practice. I don't know. This is a really classic answer. I don't know. The only thing he changed, he was about Sean Mannion Saturday. I think he said he plateaued, but that's pretty much it. So Martin Saint Louis is not really the speaker or the spokesman about the injuries, and not many for the Montreal Canadiens. So I would like to hear from each one of you. We don't need to know about why they have many injuries, but more about the fact why they continue to act that way and what they should do more to have a better idea what's going on with injuries. Because honestly, Maybe I maybe missed the news, but someone can tell me what's going on with Albert Jekai?
Well, Coach, there's a couple things, right? So there's a couple of big mysteries in life, right? Like, why are we here? That's a real. Everybody asks that question. Why are we here? Did the aliens build the pyramids? Who shot JFK? And another right after those is where's Sean Monahan? And then right after that would be like what's going on with Joel Edmondson's back. So in order, maybe I would put Joel Edmondson's back before JFK. I don't know, but somewhat in that order is some of the mysteries that we have in life. And to me, the biggest mystery. I don't know if you guys remember, but early on, it was kind of cool the way that they were doing it. They would have Chantal Machabé that would come out at the beginning of the press conference, and she would answer questions about injuries for about 5 minutes. And then she would leave all the hockey questions to Martin Saint-Louis. When did that change? Like, I felt that was working really well for 3 weeks until they actually had injuries that, should have been reported. So I just don't understand it. Like Coach, we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, but there's not a strategic advantage to doing this. Like, if you think that you're going to, hide an injury, and it's going to influence a team's decision as to whether they're going to trade for that player, it doesn't work like that. We all agree that during the playoffs, it makes sense. There's a strategic advantage to not doing that. But honestly, Coach, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for it, but you figure that with all the investment that the betting companies have made into the NHL, and trust me, I'm no fan of all the betting commercials out there and everything. Like, I would rather poke my eyes out than watch another betting commercial. But you would have thought that maybe with all the betting companies involved in the NHL, that they would have required teams to be a little bit more upfront with the injury status of certain players, because that's a pretty critical component of their clientele being able to ledger, hard-earned money on some of those things, right? So your guess is as good as mine, but another one I should add to my list maybe is the Sasquatch. Maybe the existence of the Sasquatch is that somewhere between Joel Edmonton's back and Jack Eye's shoulder. I think that's all I have to report for now, but I'm curious to see what Intertap thinks.
Marco, you forgot one very important mystery. How did they get the cream in the Cadbury chocolate bar? You forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I think they've discovered that one. I think it was Elon Musk. Elon Musk invented that.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, you bring up some good points. I think the transparency issue, I thought for quite a while it was settled when we got the new management in, and Chantal came in, and I agree she was giving frequent reports in terms of not just injuries, but also what was happening, whether it was community-wise, whether it was with players' contracts or anything like that. But so that part was definitely well received by everybody. I still think you can't just dismiss it that maybe some of this covertness is hidden in the fact that they have to keep very quiet in terms of the trade deadline. I think the more rumors get out there, and then the worse it becomes, either to either trade a player, or suppose you don't trade a player, but that name has made its rounds in the rumor circles. You don't know how that player will receive it and how they'll play with the team and what it will do to their development. I think a better indication will be once this trade deadline is gone and out of the way. And if they still persist not to be very transparent, then it's a bigger issue. If all of a sudden they're back to their old selves and are being a little bit more open about it, then we know what the answer was. The only other thing I can think of, and it really falls on the hands of the NHL, and that's the fact that they should make it more mandatory for the teams to disclose the nature of the injury, right? Yeah, to just come out and say upper body injury, lower body injury, gone day to day, week to week, whatever the case might be. It is so vague that it serves no purpose. You might as well not say anything at all and just keep it as it is right now. But you're right. I think once we get through the trade deadline, things will be a little bit more transparent.
Yeah.
What do they expect? What do they expect YouTube streamers to talk about if they're not going to give us more information,
Exactly.
right?
Oh, the Islanders just scored. Oh boy.
If you think about this one that Ken Hughes and Jeff, and then Jeff got his sign, or they got hired, they talk about more transparency with Chantal Maccabi, like you said. I don't want to compare this, but every day you have a brief, some kind of information from the White House, right? You have the speaker talk at the beginning, and they have someone special who want to talk about deeper. They invite at that person. I think that would be shortly that way. The first 5 minutes they can talk about the injuries, or it's friend news where it's out of the subject of Martin Saint Louis, or become that kind of person to be the person is in charge about the injuries, and then the beginning,
the press secretary.
It's only one injury or two injuries. We don't have to be too much worried, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. But we talk about like 12 right now. It's like, and most of them, other than the fact we know the Jake Evans knee, but one Jake Evans return now. Where is he right now on his rehabilitation? Is it now on the, so that would be great to hear that. Kenan Cole, we saw him right now, but we saw him only because when he show up on the ice. Or otherwise, we did not know when he's going to return more about this. I just feel like they should give us a little bit more information for the fans. I think the fans deserve to get some information, not to get more deeper about the injuries or go deep with injuries, but at least to give us a deadline or with expectation. And then another update after 2-3 weeks that the guy is out for 8 weeks. I think that would be a little bit more appropriate for the fans to know about that situation.
And one thing I'll add to, like, so I have a background working in social media, right, in public relations and stuff like that. To me, it's almost like a lost opportunity as well to, like, what Chantal Maccabi wanted to do was bring the players closer to the fans. To me, like, I agree, coach. Like, we don't need to see their MRIs, and we don't need to see kind of like the equipment that they're using, but they have a lot of video content creators out there. Like, imagine if once in a while they showed a video of Jake Evans training, trying to rehab back, and have a little interview with them to talk to fans about, hey guys, like, I'm still working hard to try to come back. And just a good opportunity for all NHL actually to humanize the players even more. Some of these, like, you guys, coach, you would know even more than we would, but being behind in the dressing room and seeing the hard work that these players go through to rehab injuries, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of strength and perseverance to do that. Those are really good stories that the NHL should be sharing with their fans, because then it humanizes the players more. It adds to the transparency, but then it's just another way for us to connect with them. And again, we don't need to learn, kind of like really intimate details of stuff, but there's ways to create content like that I think are still relevant and that are still safe. That's not going to reveal too much information.
I agree with you about that one over there for sure. And I think it would be like you said, a great story to know more about the guy is out for 8 weeks, what he does for his, his work, and how he can come back as 100% and everything. It could be a staff mid-call, and the team can have some kind of information because we have 12. It's not like we have only 1 or 2, like I mentioned earlier. So I think for the fans, like, everything in Montreal, something move, everybody knows about what's happening, right? So it's the same thing with Montreal. I think that'd be great to just give a little bit more information. I think for the real fans, I think that'd be great to hear that. Well, Montreal Canadiens now, the last couple we just passed. I don't know if in the fan, we have a couple of people pop up. So before we move on, Dixon Automotive is in the house. Dixon, welcome back.
Welcome, Dixon.
Hey, Dixon.
Dixon from the car, Nissan to the couch. Now sit in the couch between both kids. I said, time to watching the Hockey Nation live show. That would be the best way to do that before you go to bed. Kids, listen what coach said about Montreal Canadiens. So that's happening over there. Here we go. The next thing I want to talk about the trade deadline. Montreal Canadiens. We heard today from Edmondson and Monahan are a little bit out of any possibility of any trade now with the Montreal Canadiens from Alien Friedman. Jeff Marek said Montreal don't expect him to make a lot of move. And Artap said about 3 or 4 times could have a trade. But what is your expectation now for the Montreal Canadiens? Quiet or not quiet? And maybe tell a little bit more what you expect, what kind of player can be traded, so we can go a little bit more good conversation there.
Yeah, I think I have no basis for it, Coach. But sometimes when there's too much silence, there's something happening, and that's just the feel I get for it, and that's all it is a feel. I don't think it'll be super active or anything like that, but I do think both Gorton and Hughes probably have 3 to 4 moves. I would put in that category probably. We talked about it at the warm up show a little bit. Possibly the salary of Paul Byron going to a team that either has to raise the floor a little bit, kind of like what they did with Shea Weber last year. And what that does is it also relieves them of some cap room. Montreal would probably take back a high-priced player, a bad contract, call it that, in return that maybe expires at the end of the year. It really doesn't matter for us at this point, but it's the picks that we get with that, maybe a pick or two with that. I would throw Dadonov as a possibility of being moved. Don't expect a lot, but maybe if you're lucky, you might get maybe a third for him. I'm just speculating on that. And then if they want to swing for the fences, again, if somebody really gives you something good for either Savard or Anderson, I don't want to move Anderson, but I like the player. But I think down the road, I'm not sure how he fits into our plans, especially for a guy that is very unidimensional in his game, right? He doesn't really bring a lot to the table in terms of lateral play. He's very north and south. He gets hot for about 4 or 5 games, and then you barely notice him out there another 4 or 5 games. So I think his value is at a peak right now. So if you have a team that's willing to give you something big for it, then why not at least explore it, is what I'm thinking. Can Drouin possibly be moved? I think that's more of a possibility than Hoffman, just because of the contract situation. It's going to be harder for Hoffman to get rid of the extra year that comes into it. So that's probably where the 3 or 4 are. Outside chance that somebody, because I've heard that a lot of interest has been placed on Savard. I'm not sure Montreal wants to go that direction, but again, if the offer is very good, then you need to listen to it at least, and then explore your options.
So I guess I would put it in a couple of different categories. Like, do you guys remember when we used to buy DVDs or Blu-rays, and then like the older Blu-rays or DVDs used to go in the bargain bin, like Police Academy 8 or something like that, and you could buy a whole bunch of different
10,
DVDs,
10
like
for $1.
yeah, exactly. Like so so first category is bargain bin, right? So we have a couple of players in the bargain bin category, like Enartap mentioned, right? So you've got your Dadonoffs and your Dwayne, kind of players in that category. I I wouldn't put Hoffman in that category because too expensive to be in the bargain bin, right? Like so that's the first category. The other category is have to blow your socks off in order to move them, like Anderson. I think it's hard to make a deal like that at the deadline. It's a long-term piece. It's not a team that's looking to just add a rental or something like that for the end of the season. It's more a team that can make room for, this kind of player, and somebody that ideally probably would play on your third line, but you have, whatever he makes, like 4.5 or $5 million a year. So it's a really narrow kind of profile of team that can make that work. So, but I agree, Undertap, like Anderson's value is probably peaking right now. So if there is the right opportunity, I, you know, I, there's no way that Hughes is not listening to every call that comes in, but I would be shocked if that would happen.
Yeah, me too.
So, then the other category are, the injured players, like, the bubble wrap players like Monahan and Edmondson. So we know nothing's going to happen there. And then you have like, the break glass in case of emergency category, where you have, maybe teams that really miss out on the center that they wanted. Maybe they come knocking at the door for Dvorak, right? Similar to Anderson in the sense where you need some room for him in the long term because he doesn't have an expiring deal, but a very useful piece in the right mix, like but I think teams would have to really strike out, or maybe get a really bad news, like let's say Barzell, kind of situation where the team is, fighting to get in and they need to get in because they have a lot on the line and things like that. So to me, Dvorak, I guess, would be an outside chance that somebody nibbles on him. So all that to say, like, I don't be disappointed, guys, if there's not going to be much at all. Maybe there's a kind of deal where, similar to what Minnesota did, where we get involved in a ménage à trois, where we facilitate the trade by taking on a little bit of salary and maybe get like a high round pick or something, like, a fourth round pick. So, and coach, like we were talking about on Habs brunch, this was one of the major objectives of the 2022 season, was to add another first round pick or add more assets. So it's, you could say it's a bit of a failure. You can't really blame Hughes necessarily. Just really bad luck with Edmondson and with Monahan, unfortunately. But as fans, don't despair. We did get a first rounder pick already for Monahan. Unfortunately, it comes with lots of strings. Like, do you guys remember the strings on that one? Like, it's not guaranteed for 2024 either, right? Like, or is it guaranteed?
Yeah.
Like, it's guaranteed
There is
for 2024.
There is
like,
a
I forget what
condition. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'll have to look that up again. But hopefully, in the next 3 years, we see that first round pick for Monahan. At some point. I can't remember when it is. I think it's 2024. And if the Flames finish a certain amount, then it might go to 2025. So hopefully we're still alive by then.
Exactly. Yep, so right about that, about that trade for money and everything like that. Look, it's for me, it's all about injuries. Nobody predict injury for money and Edmondson as a two piece of the puzzle. At the beginning, everybody was expect Dadonov have a better year. Dadonov at 20 goals right now would be another conversation in NHL. Drouin with no injuries will be another conversation there. They have the three players at the beginning of the season. They was expect to have a good year, so they get something in return. Unfortunately, now this is over, and they have to move on. I don't think so. They will trade Savard and Anderson. I think they are not like the key important for the future, but what they are today with Jake Allen. They need all three to move on for the next 2 years to create some kind of leadership around the team. So I think that's the reason why they don't expect to trade three of them, because they need that. And then Edmondson could be a little bit more moving during the summer. And Monahan is UF free, so he'll be gone anyway at the end of the year. So that's pretty much what they have. So to be back of the question, quiet or not quiet, it's going to be a minor. Could be a dead enough. It could be a third party, add a bad contract, get an asset and return. And that's pretty much what Montreal should do right now on the traded line. Plus, one thing, like at the beginning of October, we never thought it's going to have a lot more seller. Like, who said that Columbus is going to be what they are? Who said that St. Louis Blues are going to let go Tarasenko, O'Reilly, and possible now Barbachev, and possible Perico. So at the beginning of the year, we thought about Nashville become a seller. Could be now Washington become another seller too on that part. And who think about Florida will be where they at. So you have a lot of more seller what we expect. And that drop the value of Monahan compare what they have on the market now. Monahan would be great if he wasn't injured because now after the already gone, Bo Horvat is gone. With Jonathan Taze not going to be nowhere. Monahan will have a little bit more interest around the league, but obviously with his injury, a setback again for the third time. This is over for Montreal Canadiens. So I don't know if you expect more movement or not, but on my side, I don't see any great things for the Montreal Canadiens. Well, that's okay. Nothing wrong. They don't need to trade that moment to create something big impact. They don't need, compared to last year, when they have maybe more major key players, and not many have those around the NHL. This year is more about the St. Louis Blues. You can see what they did, and they are maybe not done over there. And that's what I feel about the Montreal Canadiens right now for the next 2 weeks at the end of the trade deadline.
Yeah, there's some
probably
sneaky...
be more action at the draft table at that point, or even during free agency when that comes up. But you're right. Like there's no rush to get anything done right now. Of course, you would like to shed some of these bad contracts, but it doesn't always work out, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now I'm reading.
So by the way, I'm not sure, but
go ahead.
I was just going to say, first of all, I think Intertap was flipping us the bird earlier when he was scratching his eye, but it's okay.
Oh no, not you.
It was. That's okay though.
There's a captain out there.
Very subtle. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, like there are some sneaky good options in terms of centers out there that maybe don't get as much attention. You know, like you have a Bukestad, you know, in Arizona that might be a good pickup. You know, for some teams, you know, they might, you know, look at him instead of a Dvorak, or even if Monahan was healthy. Really depends what your need is, right? Like if you're just looking for a third line center, and then recently there's some talk about Hayes in Philadelphia, but that's a really big ticket to take on. He's got like another 4 years or something, like at $7 million or whatever. Like that's, I don't know if he'll get moved, but you know, like any other trade deadline, there's going to be players that get moved that we weren't expecting. But it really depends on the urgency of the need, right? Like you're going to have at least one or two GMs that panic, you know, that have expectations for this year. But it's definitely right now a buyer's market more so than a seller's market, which is not great news for Hughes. But like Intertap said, right? Like you know, Hughes definitely kind of set the bar really high for making it exciting at the draft. I don't know if he'll be able to live up to last year, because that was probably one of the most exciting hockey things I've ever seen in my entire life as a Habs fan. So, but it would be you know, be nice to get something done at the draft for sure.
Yeah. Do you think Dvorak could be trade?
Yes, definite possibility. Yeah. Especially if in their minds they have his replacement. And I'm thinking of guys like Beck maybe coming up next year, or even acquiring somebody else that could play either wing or center position. Then that's a definite possibility. His contract is, I think it's very doable. I think it extends into next year as well. He's got one more year after this on his contract left, so it's very doable for a team that just needs that third line kind of center that can also fill in a second line, and that really helps out. Are you okay, Marco?
Yeah, I just saw somebody in the chat was laughing at me because my face was too zoomed, so I thought it would come in even closer. Yeah.
Go closer. Yeah, I've seen we've been compared to the Three Stooges as well, so that's okay.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that I was not Mo, because I think I have the goatee to be. I look more like Mo than Larry, but okay.
But one thing I think we can talk about Dvorak is like it reminds me a lot of the situation with Lars Eller or for the Washington Capitals, same contract about
Yeah.
$4.5 million less, and play third line. And he cover if if Backstrom is out or the second is out, he can pick it up that top six for a couple of games, everything. So I think that's the role that Dvorak can do for any team in NHL. They have some kind of money they could put on the salary cap. But to do that, I think you cannot put Dvorak as a regular second center on your team. I think it will be not the way I said that.
No.
I think a little bit like Shedil does right now for the Rangers. That's a good example. Jordan Staal does the same thing with the Carolina Hurricanes. He's still at $6.5 million, but next year he's going to sign up a new contract, and I expect him to be lower. And that will be the role I expect from him, Christian Dvorak, for any new team. Is he got trade? The good news, he still have 2 more years on his contract at 4.5. So it could be something they can look at a team, but it's not going to help in the Colorado Avalanche example. That's a problem right there, right? Cannot help in the Minnesota Wild. But if I was the Edmonton Oilers, that's the kind of guy I would looking if I was them. A security guy with there. If you think about Ottawa Senator, we're going to talk about the trade they did today. If you think this way, they could trade one out Pinto as the third center, and to get a first-round pick or something else, Riley Gregg for Chikron, and you add a guy like Christian Dvorak as the fourth, with your third center, behind Suzla and Norris. This is a way to have a better team to go deep in the playoff if you make the playoff with that. I think that's the way to do that. You cannot go in the playoff with 3 players back-to-back like Suzla with Norris and Pinto.
I don't disagree that there's a bit of a duplication between Ridley Gregg and with Pinto. It's like Montreal, right? Like we have too many left-hand defensemen. So I think surplus, like you can never have too many centers. That's for sure. Like it's easier to play somebody at wing that can play center. But based on just the inability that the Sens have shown to be able to go and find that top 3 defensemen that they just sorely need, like man, like it's shocking to me that like we were talking about earlier, like it's a great move to be able to free up the Zaitsev money, but it's like almost March. Why did it take so long? If you're going to give away a second round and a 4th round pick to get rid of Zaitsev, why wouldn't you have done that like in November when you still had the opportunity to actually help your team free up some cap and go get like a defenseman that I can actually play in your top 4? So I don't understand. You don't think Chicago would have done this deal in November? Like it's 100% aligned with what they wanted to begin with. So I don't understand why it would take so long for Dorian to do that. I think we all expected Ottawa to be a lot closer than they are right now. They're like 3 points ahead of Montreal? That's shockingly under where we thought that they would be. And you can pretty much point to 2 things because of that. It's 3 things, I think. DJ Smith, I'm not a huge fan and never have been. Obviously there's time for a new voice in that room. That's the first thing. Second thing, you need that top 4 defender. And I was never a huge fan of bringing in Talbot. I didn't think he was going to be that good of a solution, but Forsberg's been a bit disappointing too, right? So I think it's good. It's a really good idea, Coach. Like there is duplication there between Pinto and Ridley Gregg. To me, Ridley Gregg is a gamer. Like that guy, you don't. I would very much like to keep him. Pinto seems like a really good player. Started the season like on fire. Remember in the preseason, he was scoring like 8 goals a game.
Oh yeah,
against Montreal in the preseason. But he has like 12 goals this season. Like he just completely puttered out. He had lots of opportunity to play on the second line with really good players, and he's going to be good. But I think that if there's one piece that you're going to sacrifice to round out your team, that would be my guy.
But I would be surprised if Pinto, Marco, and you remind me a little bit of Shedil. If both of them play with Panarin and Tarasenko or Paranen and someone else, and then Pinto play with Giroux and the Brincat, what would be the stat of Pinto? Maybe Pinto is maybe a top 6 because right now he cannot because the center he has in front of him and play third line. you don't have enough time. You play maybe 13, 14 minutes, and you don't have those kind of skilled player around you. So I think Pinto a little bit disadvantage right now about that situation with Ottawa. But for me, I think he could be a very good asset for Ottawa to trade at some point. King, ask you this. I think I'm not agree, but I want to hear from you. If Montreal really want a first round pick, they should trade Jake Allen for a first round pick plus an experienced goalie, then a free agency sign a goalie.
Pass. First of all, I don't think a team's going to pay that. I don't think a team's going to pay a first round pick for Jake Allen, unless like you're Colorado and you're expecting to go for a run, and both your goalies get injured like the week before the deadline or something, and you're totally in panic mode. Maybe, but I don't see a team paying that, first of all. And from Montreal's perspective, maybe that's like, I was a little surprised that they signed him to a 2-year extension. I think for sure for the balance of this year and next year, I think it's great to have Jake Allen there. He loves being there. He's a great veteran. I love that line that he used. Like, I understand my role. I'm not going to be able to sit or enjoy the shade in the tree that I'm planting, or whatever cool quote that he said. But to me, that's the right attitude, right? Like, he knows that he's investing in the team, and he's not going to be there to see the team reach its full potential, but he's really excited he's a big Montreal guy. He's from Montreal. He wants to be somebody that contributes to the winning culture that's going to come, right? So I have no issues with that. I would stay with the goaltending that we have now for one more year, but like we've talked about many times, we need to get the future goalie like this summer. Like, I think if it's not like, if we draft someone, then we're like 5 years away from having that person be ready to play in the NHL, which doesn't really match up the window very well. So like we've talked about, coach, we've debated this a couple times, is go out and get at least one or two, not blue chip goalie prospects, because those are very hard to trade for. If you can get one, fantastic. But if not, then at least go get two, like not B grade, but like, really good goaltending prospects. Get at least two of them somehow, so that you can kind of diversify your bet a little bit, so that you have Montembeault, you have Primo, and then you have these two other guys. You have Dobes, that might be a factor as well too. So you just try to diversify your chances and do that. But King, I don't know, man. Like, just let Jake do his thing and take the shrapnel for the team. Like, remember in those war movies when there's a guy that would jump on the grenade for everyone? That's Jake Allen right now. You don't trade a guy like that.
Yeah, you're totally right about that, Marco. I think he realizes what his role is, and he's doing an admirable job here in Montreal, and he's accepting of that role, which is fantastic to see. But I definitely believe that this summer they will address the goalie issue, be it through draft or maybe through some alternative trade that they do at the draft time. Something will happen. Could even be free agency, but then that's a little bit dicier because I don't think there are a lot of goalies that are going on the free agency market. I think there's only 3. And so you have to really be careful with that aspect of it. But yeah, that's an area that they'll have to address. And Jake Allen's here, as a mature ambassador for the team, and he's doing his job. The problem is you can't keep playing him. And this year's worked out nicely because Montembeault has really developed to a nice stage that he's able to almost take half the games away from Allen, and so they're very balanced. So when they both go in, they're pretty much fresh. You notice that Jake Allen would either get injured or he would put in a real clunker of a game when he would have to play 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Because he's just not at that level in terms of a 1A goalie. So this works out best for us now.
Yeah,
and he's never been that either, right?
I don't know why they would trade Jake Allen. First of all, I think the goalie is set up for them for the next 2 years. I don't think they would move anything for the next, at least this year and next season. I think they want to stabilize more the other area of the game. They know what they can get from both goaltender, and they are not at the position right now to try to make the playoff or to go deeper. So their area is not really focusing. They are both does a very good job. Plus, Montembeau developed very well. I think they said, you know what, we don't need to move on any both of them and just wait for the next 24 months before something could happen on the table in front of them. It's a bit like, do they really need to sign a UFA next season? That's the same thing I would compare this to Jake Allen. They really need to sign a UFA or give a contract 7 years to someone at 24, 25, 26, or say, you know what, we're not there yet. A little bit what Buffalo does right now. Buffalo, can they go deeper right there at the traded line? Maybe not. They are not there yet. I think every step of the process to go to the next level, it takes time. And I think sometimes you have to wait and be patient and not to push too hard on what you try to accomplish right now. I think that's the reason I said I would not trade Jake Allen at that moment.
Yeah. So the only thing I would just a little detail on what you're saying though is I agree. Like, you know, they're set up in their lineup, they're set up for goaltending over the next 2 years. But I really think that this summer they need to address the future of the goaltending position. They need to address that now, like this summer. That person doesn't need to play next year or even the year after that, but they need to get more depth in their prospect pool at the goaltending position so that when they get to the end of that 2-year period, that they have some viable options that they are relatively confident will be able to jump in and immediately contribute to a core that's going to be like Suzuki's going to be what, like 24, almost going towards 25. Suzuki's going to be like 24. Like, okay, now your young core is like in their mid 20s now. You don't want to bring in like a 21-year-old goalie. You don't want to bring in a 29-year-old goalie either and have to sign him for 5 years and then he shits the bed for the next 5 years either, right? So it's to me that it's a very delicate balance. You know, you have to find somebody, I think, and it's just not like I think you're right, Coach. Like you've kind of won me over to that. It's going to be hard to find that blue chip prospect. So the only hope they have, in my humble opinion, is you throw as many darts at the board as possible. You know, like goaltending is just so tricky to draft and to scout, right? So we just need a couple of options.
Time to develop.
Yeah, it's just total voodoo. Like it's like a coach. We've talked about this. It's exciting. Earlier in the year, I can't remember who they hired, but they hired a full-time goalie scout, Montreal. I can't remember what his name was, but
Ryan, I believe
that was a good move. Yeah, but that's a good move. Like they need to they need to invest even more. Like I'm surprised teams, because remember we talked about this summer, guys. Like goalies, the whole position I think is going to change in the next several years, right? Like we already know that the number one goalie playing 70 games per year, that era is done. So you're going to need even more NHL level goaltenders in organizations to be able to play those games. And we've talked about how the wear and tear on the athletes themselves has grown to be so much because of the style that they play with the reverse H and the way too many exhibition games they play, too much practice. Like it's maybe it'll become kind of like pitchers in baseball. I'm not saying that you would change goalies halfway through a game, like, you know, you have a starter and a closer, but maybe the goaltending position is going to need to evolve like that because it's becoming too much. Just like, you know, we were talking about Marc Bergevin. It was too much for one person to be a general manager, and that's why Hugo is cool because they've kind of both took over the job and now they're partners. Maybe like our thinking needs to evolve like that when it comes to goaltending, because it's just I don't see how you're maybe get lucky once in a while. There's like 1 in 400 players that are going to be like a Vasilevsky or a Shesterkin, but it's going to be really rare.
But on the flip side, you don't have enough goalie super elite to draft. Like for me, it's not the biggest problem because in NHL, look what's happening. All right, Demko, is it a top 5 goalie in NHL? He's not. Calgary, Max Stromlandal, top 5? No. Winnipeg, they have one.
Markstrom?
Hellebuck. I give it to you.
Whoa.
Toronto, they have one?
Markstrom.
No.
Markstrom.
Ottawa, they have one? No. Los Angeles, they have one? No. San Jose have one? No. Anaheim, they have one? No. Dallas is
Boston?
a special one over there. My point
Boston?
is, it's not a sense like a draft a player top 10, top 20 are going to be a goalie in the next shot. You have better chance to focusing to add a better forward or defenseman, add a goalie. You have so many carousel, you have so many goalie left and right where they are not super elite goalie. For me, I would not targeting too much as a beginning to use a goalie. And I understand your point of view. But again, look about this. Which goalie they have in the organization, or the fact they have Wallstad, Kosak, Askarab, all three pick up the first round since the last 3 years in NHL. They have not many after that. It's second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round. And they try to develop them after that.
I don't think Marco's saying that, with your first round pick, you go and get a goalie. I think what he's trying to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marco, is you're trying to say at some point in the draft, and maybe not later on, you do pick up not one, but maybe two that you put into your system, and you go with the hope that these guys will develop in context with some of the other goalies that you either have in your system right now, or you can go and pick one up from another team if you make the right trade. At some point.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, because so you're partly there. So I think it's too late for us to use 3 of our picks and try to pick 3 goalies in this draft, because I don't think they'll be ready in time to play in the window with the rest of our players. So what I would like to see them do, again, we've talked about how many left-handed defensemen we have in the organization. We have way too many contracts in this organization too. We're like always at the maximum for contracts, like 48 out of 50 contracts. So we need to move some of the volume. Like, we have many prospects and a lot of volume. So let's move out some of that volume if we can, and shift some of those the surplus that we have in certain positions. I just want to shift and put. It's kind of like if you're playing craps, right? Like, so let's move some of the chips on the table away from the big mound of chips that we all have on defensemen. Let's take some of our chips and move them towards the goaltending position, and you hope that maybe 1 or 2 of them are going to hit, right? Because I agree, there's not many blue chip prospects, and you have at least once every couple of years, you have this goalie that comes out of nowhere that just becomes like an absolute superstar, right? So to me, it's, let's shift some of our assets towards the goaltending position, because we're desperately going to need it in 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, like I said, yes, I agree with you. That is important, right? They have a D-show, they have doorbells already inside of this organization. They have to develop those. A difficult problem is because both of them are not inside the organization. That's the problem. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what they're going to become. Is it under Montembeault, everything like this? We don't know. But we don't have, and it's hard to find a goalie number one. Spencer Knight, Carter Hart, Kosa, and Wellstead are right now in the American Hockey League or whatever they play right now. So it's not easy to find those kind of goals, everything like that. Question quickly before we move on. Marc Bergeron was at the game yesterday, and Ellen asked you any reason.
It's interesting. Like,
scouting.
He's the, what's his role? He's the director. He's a special assistant to the general manager, right?
General manager, yeah.
So he's a special assistant for the general manager. So in that role, you'd have a couple things that you'd be doing. It could just be that he happened to be there. Like, I don't think we have like a specific answer. I have a lot of potential funny answers as to why he would be there, but I don't think that's what you're asking. I could definitely make up some cool reasons why I think it would be funny why he's there. But like most likely it's to New Jersey and Montreal we're playing. So like those are 2 teams that could be interesting trading partners for Los Angeles for sure. We've talked a lot about how Montreal has a surplus of left-handed defensemen. Well, LA has a surplus of right-handed defensemen. So to me, if I was like an Indian matchmaker, I would be trying to couple up, Los Angeles and Montreal to come together and make a trade because they seem like they would be good partners. And maybe New Jersey and LA might be good trade partners.
For me, I
Marc
will set
Bergevin,
you up. Bergeron is looking more for Rand Greaves.
really, yeah, Ryan
Yep.
Graves.
You think so?
Become UFA next year. So I think they're looking
Yeah.
more about the defenseman for the New Jersey Devils about this. They are losing Stevenson and Rand Greaves. I think Greaves with the Kings could be a really good asset along. He's not there to make a trade, but more about what could happen in the future.
Scouting, yeah.
I think that would be the one I would thinking Bergevin was there. Let's move on, guys. We have a few things to talk about. Montreal and Emerson, we talk about this out of the market now. So Montreal, I'm not going to trade both of them. That will be, important to see that. We have a couple of people in the chat talk about different things. But RHP, top 6, first of all, or no? Then, better que Gallagher. So that would be my question. And then it will be for upcoming year, not for the rest of the season, but for the next year. What do you expect RHP part of the lineup or not? If yes, top 6 or top 9? And is it better or Gallagher?
He's definitely a version of Gallagher, but I think he's got some attributes that might place him ahead of him. And I'm talking about not just size, but he also brings to the table probably he likes to get in front of the net just like Gallagher, but he brings also a good set of hands, and he can score. He's got a good nose for where the puck and the rebounds are going at. He likes to get into the corners. He's not afraid of physical play. Is he a top 6? Probably not right now, but I definitely think he can work his way there. And if there's one thing this guy does, is work his heart out, just to get to places that nobody thinks he can get to. He wants to prove people wrong, and he wants to show that he's a part of this team. So I think there's a place for him here for next year, and I think he could get to that top 6. And he's probably a Gallagher 2.0 with a little bit of an edge.
Okay, thanks. Speaking of grenades, here's a good grenade for us, Airtap, because I'll start off by saying I very much respect and I really like watching RHP, and I love his story and all those fun things. I think he's doing a great job, and he very much deserves everything that's happening to him right now. But let me say one name for fans who have been watching Montreal for a while, and maybe put that in context with when you're talking about this. So Marcel Hossa. Marcel Hossa, barged onto the scene for the Habs, and I believe he had a similar kind of amount of goals in his first 15 games with Montreal or something like that when he came on. So I'm not saying that RHP is going to have the same career as Marcel Hossa, but what I'm always concerned about in Montreal is that we elevate players much too quickly, and then we're very quick to smash them down when they're not performing. So with RHP, guys, let's just enjoy him for what he is, which is an awesome story, a guy who works hard and is having a great time taking advantage of the opportunity that he has now. Will he be a top 6 forward? Listen, it's not impossible, but it's really not likely. And to be honest, if he's playing in our top 6 in the next 2 years, our rebuild is not going super well, guys. It's not going super well. But if he's really kind of keeps earning a spot on your third line and continues the energy, dedication, leadership, everything that he does, and you can bring that on your third line, depending on the mix of players that you have. Coach, let's not forget, we have a lot of smallish prospects coming up, like Farrell, and guys like that, right? So, he's it's not to say he I love St. Louis' quote about him yesterday. RHP doesn't even just win his 50-50 battles, like he wins like his 70-30 battles, right? That's an awesome quote. Imagine if Dwayne was able to win 10% of his battles on the boards, like he'd be a totally different player. So I love RHP, but dear God, we would be in such big trouble if he's playing in our top six for the next while. I'm afraid to say anything about Gallagher, so I won't even mention his name because I'm almost afraid to think about Gallagher, like how much we're going to be paying that guy for so long.
So, do you
No,
think
that's
RHP
true.
could become a mention penny?
No.
Do you think RHP could be a Konechny?
No.
So you expect
So, 'cause
about
you're
30
talking about
points and maybe 10, 15 games per season?
If he's on the third line,
Mangiapane
that's
and
excellent.
Mangiapane and Konechny are like 25, 30 goal scorers. So I don't think that's him.
He's having
like
a bit
again,
of an off year though this year, Mangiapane.
yeah, no, but I'm
Like
saying like he has the
he's
potential
slowed
to
down.
score 25, 30 goals. That's a good question. Like, what is a good comparison for him? Think like a Andrew Cogliano kind of guy. That's who I think of. Speedy, really
No.
tenacious.
I know.
Really?
It's better to Cogliano.
Think of an Andrew
Like
Copp.
maybe like
He's very much like an
Cogliano is
Andrew
more a
Copp.
two-way center. Now on the when you talk about him, Cogliano have a similar junior career in OHL and a QM for Pinard, everything like that. But what Cogliano became, he became a little bit a Carbono when he realized he struggled on the offensive side in NHL. He become now a 200-way player. So he really focusing more on the defensive zone, and he really became an offensive. I think RHP could become that kind of 20 goal in NHL. The difference between him, I would say to you, RHP drive more to the net. When it looked like last night, he opened up 3 opportunities for Josh Anderson because he won the battle around the board. And I don't say he's going to be a 30 goal in NHL. It's not say he's going to be a top 6. My point is I think
he doesn't have to be.
Talented, skill-wise is better.
maybe,
talented, skill-wise is better to Gallagher. Talented-wise. And I said Gallagher is not good. I just said Gallagher got those goals because he realized go get in front of the net and pay the price and tip everything there. How many goals Gallagher averaged during his career of the 3 seasons, 30 goals back to back to back? How many goals over 20 feet shot? 3%, 5%, right? Is right there. But RHP, I think, have a better shot, a better way, a better vision, a better hockey player like Gallagher. It's just you need to have those kind of opportunity to stay in the lineup and to play with the right players. And that's sometimes it's not easy to play with the right player, the right teammate. And now he took advantage of Suzuki and Anderson. But last night, who has a better game, Suzuki or Pinard or Anderson?
Like, listen, Coach, I said, I don't want to seem like I'm hating on RHP, right? Like, I'm enjoying watching him play.
No,
as much as anybody else, right? But I just don't want to put the pressure on the kid to categorize him as a potential top 6. Just let him play, and we have all these other pieces that are going to be coming in the next while. So all that's going to sort itself out. I would be very surprised, though, looking at the top prospects and the core players we have now, that he is the right guy to be in your top 6 based on some of the other pieces that we have coming. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
again, it's
I
not
understand
like
your
pressure,
point, Marco. You're not wrong. It's sometimes you play up a player more than they are, and the greatest test is time, right? And if he can perform that on a consistent basis, then you have more of a valid workspace to draw an opinion upon. I do believe that just based on how hard he's worked and the obstacles that he's had to overcome, that's something that you don't just quickly dismiss or forget in your future. And so even if he meets up with some other obstacles in Montreal, I think he still might be able to sort of circumvent them and still become an integral part of the team, as long as that effort and those skills are there. Like I like, just in terms of what he's done with Pizzetta. Like Pizzetta was totally doing zero for us for the longest period of time, and all of a sudden now he's picking up an assist here, a goal there. Why? Because they read each other well. There's a good synergy between them, and the other winger, I think it was a Yolanen that he was playing with. I can't remember the other winger.
Playing with
And they
Belzile
look good.
well too, right?
Belzile, right? And so they come out there, they give you that energy. Will he ever be a 30-goal scorer? I doubt it, but he doesn't have to be, right? Like, he just has to be that energy kind of guy that can dispel some of the defensive work that has to be done on your top two lines, right? And comes in and gives you that odd goal here and there, and just gives the team energy.
I tried to figure out someone like that. Can he become a Martinook?
That's more viable. Like
Maybe.
Martinook's yeah, that's a decent.
Can he become a
comparison.
Pajot?
Well,
No.
Pajot's a center, right?
Yeah, I don't think.
Pajot
Not a
scored
big
20
fan.
goals in the NHL, and with the last 2 years, become more defensive players.
Yeah, Pajot's more of a center though, but like thinking of like, like a good, like, yeah, I like Cogliano, like as an example, just because I like his speed. He's tenacious. Like Cogliano was pretty skilled when he was younger. Like, Cogliano over the last 3-4 years has slowed down. Like his
Yeah,
production has
he go
slowed
more
down
defensive
since.
side. He understood. He readjust himself. Some players don't have they have a difficult time to figure out something else on the tools, right?
To
And I
reinvent
think that
themselves.
Montreal does a
Yeah.
good job with Josh Anderson right now. They try to understand him, other thing he can do on the ice. Move on with that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of conversation, guys, in the chat. Keep converse both of you, all of you together. And we apologize. We cannot flow with everything on the chat, so on the feed. But I try to answer each one. You want Marco in our top talk, but Rida went out talk, gamer talks, and keep continuing with those conversations. That's great. And I want to move quicker. We got about 25 minutes. And you slightly talk this way, Marco. I was wishing you don't talk about this yet, but because it was my next subject. It was Martin Saint-Louis. If you look at my video last night, this morning, I talk about the development of Montreal Canadiens, and one segment is about Martin Saint-Louis. Talk about do not compare Montreal to the New Jersey. Do not compare us to anybody. The depth of joy, and he really go deeper with that statement. But I want to talk a little bit more about the development Martin Saint-Louis as a coach. And we know we do a lot about talking about Montreal a lot. And I think 2 weeks ago, Marco, on the app branch, we talked about what you're looking for the second half of the season, or what you're looking for was one part is adjustment. I feel for me, Martin Saint-Louis grow in the last 4 weeks as a hockey coach behind the bench. I don't know if you both maybe to give us a little bit your opinion about Martin Saint-Louis. And after you can start about Martin Saint-Louis.
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, there's nothing not to like about Martin St. Louis. I mean, he's experienced a lot of these obstacles. So his greatest attribute, I think, is his ability to communicate with the players. He can communicate with the superstar. He can communicate with the rookie. He can communicate with the upcoming rookie because he's been at all those stages. And I think that's how he opened up his speech when he first got hired and went in the change room to talk to the players. He said, everybody in this room here, I've been to what position you're in right now. You're looking for a new contract. I've been there. You're looking for a scoring championship. I've been there. You're looking to be cut from the team. I've been there. And so he was able to open everybody's eyes and make them realize, hey, this guy understands me. And I think, the biggest part of the game is played up here in the head. And if you can get them in the right mindset and make them believe in what your aims and goals are, then they'll go through a wall for you. And they know that it's a sincere interest and communication that you have ongoing with them. Now, having said all of that, do I think it would be a good idea, and maybe I'm going off track here, would it be a good idea to have like either an assistant or coach that has a little bit of experience that maybe can guide him through certain situations at times, I think it is. It's something that they could look into, just simply because he doesn't have the breadth of experience that many other coaches have. So how does he handle situations when he's at home versus the road? How does he handle eventually when he gets into the playoffs and has to think the game on his toes and change lines and know when to do that. So all of those things come with experience, and he will get there himself eventually. But to have somebody that maybe, even if he's not on the bench but is up in the press and he can draw some sort of guidance and advice from, would definitely be an added plus for Montreal.
You know, for a while, Coach, I was a bit concerned that because he does such a great job at coming up with analogies, right? Like coming up with concepts. I know he uses that word a lot, right? But using analogies to kind of drive home the point of what he's thinking. And after a while, like seeing the press conference, I was thinking maybe at one point it might start to grow a bit old. Some of his press conferences. Like for those pour les francophones, je pensais que peut-être on aurait vu comme des choses sur Bye Bye 2023. C'est comme on how Martin Saint-Louis does these kind of metaphors and everything. But to me, what's impressive is that he continues to come up with these amazing ideas to very simply and creatively communicate these pretty complicated concepts, right? He's almost like Yoda. Like he's like a little French Canadian Yoda, this man. It's just so amazing. I think it was just yesterday he was talking about how remember, like he's talked about getting on base and on every shift and everything else. But he just a great way that he said yesterday is, last night we were finishing plays, and usually we only think of that offensively, right? Like you get to the zone, you get a scoring chance, and then you finish the play. Well, we need to finish defensive plays. Being in a position is not just good enough. You have to finish your defensive play, and you have to have the same amount of energy that you go to finishing your offensive play than you do your defensive play. Like it's just little things like that, right? Like he's just such a good communicator. It's unreal. Yeah. So to me, that's his biggest strength. And, it amazes me that, again, I was a little concerned that it might wear off and that he'll eventually run out of these really cool ideas, but I don't know if he's paying. Yeah. Like, I don't know if he's paying like a writer to come up with these great things, but whatever he's doing, like keep it up. It's working amazing. In terms of behind the bench, Coach, you're right. We've talked about this before, like in-game adjustments. One of the things that I was looking at before is immediately after in the press conference, kind of like what you were saying, Intertap, before, like when they would ask him about an injury, they're like, I don't know. And sometimes at first I didn't know how I felt about that, because does it mean like, was he seeing the game, or was the game going too fast for him when it was live? Or did he just really need time to really analyze it more to give a thoughtful response? And I wasn't 100% sure which one it was, but there were certain times where I felt like there was times where he admitted that he lost players, like didn't give them enough ice time, things like that, matchups that he missed, should have pulled my goalie at some point. I need to do better for Allen, little things like that, right? But to me, and we talked about, I think you had it in some of your videos, Coach, like is anyone to me who is strong enough to admit that they need to learn, like just my own personal philosophy, guys, when it comes to life, this might sound weird, but every day when I wake up, I try to remind myself that I know nothing about anything. I'm pretty ignorant. Like, the moment that you think you know a lot about anything is the precise moment where ignorance begins, right? Because you don't think you need to learn anymore, right? So to me, that's his biggest asset, is that he's curious and he knows that he needs to learn. So anybody who knows that they need to learn is going to continue to improve, right? So I have seen those things in game, and I think it's just going to get better. I don't think he needs an assistant coach, honestly, Intertap, because let's not forget, Kent Hughes thinks he's a coach. He thinks he's coached his entire life, coaching his kids and all that. And I'm pretty sure that he likes to have those conversations. And there's a lot, like they work as a team, right? Intertap, like they have, you know, even I'm sure Gordon and Hughes together, they talk coaching. It's not just St. Louis, like they're all
Yeah,
working as a team. And last thing I'll
absolutely.
say about coaching, don't sleep on Stéphane Robida this year. That guy has been such an amazing find. Like, are you blown away with how amazing this young decor has played this year? Like, look at Kovacevic. Like, we picked that guy out. Remember, we were talking about the bargain bin earlier? Totally got that guy from the bargain bin right next to Police Academy 9. Just picked him up, and now he's like a steady top 4, even like top 6 defender in the NHL. Stéphane Robida has a lot to do with that. So we have to talk about him a bit too.
Wow. Very good subject right now here. Where Rida brings some point there. King add more information there. I like what the people get. Don't forget, guys, to click on the likes. But here's what I said. Martin St-Louis did not start to coach February 10, 2023, 22. Martin St-Louis coached for the last 25 years in the NHL. Martin St-Louis, when he was player, how many times he sit with coaches in the locker room and talk to him about strategic with Tortorella and other coaches he got. He start to coaching there. His mind start there. He did not start last week and every year before that, everything like that. He's been a coach clinic. He's been talking with many other coach in NHL and off of NHL. I would not be surprised one day we say he called maybe Ken Hitchcock or Larry Robinson. We talked those guys about strength strategic, everything like that. I see him development is excellent. And I have a quick question. Is it better a coach behind the bench or on the ice who practice? And I think that's what Martin St-Louis is excellent about communication, what he said, Marco. He's really good on practice. He surrounds himself with one of the best coach development in NHL, Adam Nicola. What he does, Marco, is he surrounds himself with the right people around him, and he can feel that kind of chemistry he can work with. He's really a player. He's not alone. Like, he's not a solo driver. He's really sharing everything around him. For me, I can see his development. In December, we struggled on defensive zone coverage. We gave many goals. And for 6-7 games, this boat it was going to go down. What he did during Christmas, he's helping his son coaching. But when he come back, he really focusing on the defensive zone coverage. He really show another concept of the players. And the team will now benefit of those teaching for the last couple of weeks. So what he did, he readjust himself. So wait a minute, we don't work on the power play yet. Now they started working on the power play. And then he can see the power play is getting better. Whatever is losing player, the train is moving forward, but the player jump in the hole of what they have a spot, and they continue to learning and to apply what Martin St-Louis teaching for month and month. You can talk about many players. The last one is now Justin Barron. You can talk about Kirby Dach. Josh Anderson, it's not the same player he was today, he was before. Josh Anderson play on PK right now. Who said one day Anderson play on PK? Never. He did an amazing, great puck or intercept the pass yesterday. If not, it would be a goal for the Devils. But those details learning by the confidence of what Martin St-Louis teach to other players in that team. He does the same thing with the staff around him. Talk about Stéphane Robida, who said Stéphane Robida will be the coach right there beside him. He have no experience, but look like the Montreal Canadiens defensive, how they get better. Savard better, Cooley better, and Harris is better, and Kovacic is better. And what happened is about development, right? They've developed, and that we have to give credit. I disagree with Enartab, not because you're not right, and I can understand your point of view. I don't think so he need anybody. What he need is to pick up the phone and reach people when he need help.
Yeah,
and you see this
absolutely.
one there.
Yeah,
and he realizes
and that's my
what
point.
He need.
It doesn't have to be somebody physically there. I mean, it's as long as he's drawing on that experience from somewhere, and that's where his forte is. He wants to learn, right? And I think that does wonders to his development as well, not just the team.
You're absolutely right about that. I'll give you another in. He's on the phone constantly with a guy at the USA Hockey Development Program. I cannot remember his last name. But he said, this guy, when he get an interview, he said, I'm sick and tired of Martin St-Louis for years. He called me every freaking week about hockey. And it was just said that, on the funny side, but that's what Martin St. Louis is. When you need an answer, he make a call. He go get that answer, and then he develop on that one over there. And I think for me, that's the reason why Montreal are lucky to have a guy like him for what Montreal need at that moment. I don't know in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Hockey guys, you get hired to get fired. No other way. You're not going to get hired to finishing all the way with that same thing. It's rare. Yeah, exception. Scott Bowman did it. We go fire too. He go all the way. John Cooper will happen one day. It's part of the game. But again, for what it bring on the table, how they develop the team, we have to give credit for that side. That's always I will try to bring to you about our coach Martin Saint-Louis overall. Is how he adapt and he adjusts with the game. When you talk about finishing your job, he start with do your job against Carolina. Right, Marco? If you follow him really well, like me, that's what he screamed to when he called the timeout, everything like that, because they know they are better. So do your job. Last night was about finish your job. So what he said, they did not finish their job against Carolina, against Toronto. They was not doing their job properly. Now, yesterday, they finished their job. And this is finished the period. This is finished their shift. This is finished their job. And those details is to teach the people. And I'm telling you now, I've been there where the confidence you can give to your players just by how you trust them, how you explain to them. And they want to know the why. They want to know why my role here. And that's what Martin Saint-Louis bring on the table over there. And I know maybe I'm out of subject, but I just want to share this about him because I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle, like other players in the puzzle. They all develop together. So if you have any final word about this before we move on.
I just have one thought, and you guys laughed at me this summer when I brought this up, but I wonder, so you're talking about Anderson killing penalties, right? And, to me, that makes sense. And we talked about players that have learned to reinvent themselves in order to prolong their career. I wonder, did nobody go to Jonathan Drouin earlier this year and say, listen, Joe, I want you to go and I want you to watch let's talk about Guy Carbonneau. Let's talk about Andrew Cogliano. Let's talk about, different players like that, listen, you're not going to score 100 points in the NHL. Sorry. You haven't scored a goal. You haven't scored a goal in almost 2 calendar years. So how are you going to stick in the NHL? And we think here's a challenge that I would like to give you, right? Like, so giving very specific, coach and Intertap, like you manage people, like you teach people, or you work in education. Coach, you've coached males, you've coached adults before. People need very specific short-term goals in order to have a focus so that they can achieve something. Smart goals is what we call them, Art. Yeah,
exactly.
Smart goals is a technical word. So I would be, in years from now, I'd be curious, because you listen to Jonathan Drouin in interviews, and I swear to God, he analyzes the game at a very high level. He gives the best post-game summaries of what happened in the game, and I find his insights really smart. He's maybe it's because he's more watching the game than playing the game, but he has, compared to Saint Louis, who's right into the game, and sometimes he can't even describe what he saw. I find that Jonathan Drouin can really he's able to report what he saw in the game very clearly. So, and for all the accounts that we hear about him, the guy's a hockey geek. He loves hockey, right? So why did nobody go to Jonathan Drouin, or if they did, why didn't that work? Why isn't Jonathan Drouin being given some very specific missions, like killing penalties or something like that, on this team?
I think they did approach him, Marco. I would be shocked. Obviously, we're not in the presence of the team, so it's hard for us to say one way or the other. But I would be shocked if they didn't do that. I think it comes to a point sometimes that you can help somebody try to redefine their game or their role upon the team, but they still might not meet those goals. And that has to do either with their attitude or their effort or their inability to budge and say, this is what I have to redefine myself into. And so if they're not willing to accept that, then it's a mute case, right? It's a lost point.
One thing you can see at Drouin is, for me, Marco, you follow a lot, but 1 year ago, his conversation with under the mic and conversation today is completely a new Jonathan Drouin. He got benched, he got healthy scratch, no reaction. Yes, always positive, always accept the situation. It was not the case before with Dominic Charm and the rest before that. So you have a new Jonathan Drouin, a new dad, a new baby. Everything like that, you understand now, maybe with more wisdom, everything like that. I would not be surprised he redefine himself with another kind of player he can become and understand maybe not the my expectation high anymore, and maybe a 30 or 40 point and 50 point, but I can play a role in NHL if I want to stay there. So to add more tools, come back to Josh Anderson. Anderson understand now, if I want to be more successful in NHL, I need to add more things on my toolbox. And that's what is fun between players. Cogliano is a great example because many times we talk about Cogliano and NHL because what he did. He understood he can go that way. Mitch Marner, funny, but Mitch Marner 3 years ago never been in PK. He's maybe one of the most dangerous players right now on the PK. He understood he need to add this if we want to have that kind of standard in NHL. So great point about this, guys. We have about 10 minutes, 7 minutes before Marco, you have to leave the building. And I'm going to go to another subject. I think we are done for tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. And I have a couple other subjects, but I want to go with, with this one. The Eastern wild card, I think it's war because right now it's war. Spot number 7 and 8, it's not done. And then every night a team win, and now it's up and down. And yesterday Pittsburgh lost, let them win the day before. Now they are in the wild card. Now the Islanders win tonight, and now the Washington lost yesterday. The Buffalo lost yesterday, but the Detroit win last night. So it's rock and roll like this. What are your expectations of the wild card? If you have said 2 teams right now make the playoff wild card, what it will be?
In the East?
Yes.
In the East, I would say I think the Atlantic in terms of 1, 2, 3 is determined. I think the Metropolitan in terms of 1, 2, 3 is determined. So we're just looking at the wild card. So I would probably say I think the Islanders will make it, especially with tonight's win. I think that was critical. And I don't know. Like I don't see Florida's going to have a tough schedule ahead of them. So I don't see them hanging on to that second spot right now. I don't believe Pittsburgh, as long as Jari's not himself and is still injured. I know he came back, but he didn't look very good the other night. I don't see Pittsburgh there. I think Washington will continue to drop. So you're looking at Buffalo. I think is they're too inconsistent. They'll win 3 games in a row, and it looks like they're in it, and then they'll go through lose 3 in a row. So I think Detroit has a legitimate shot. I love what they've been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to go with the Islanders and Detroit.
You're sticking with the Isles, eh? You love those Islanders.
Oh, yeah.
Since the beginning of the year, man. You're sticking
Just
with
not
the Isles.
tonight.
Okay. I love a man
And
who's
Winnipeg.
very consistent. Very consistent.
By the way, Yo Jet lost tonight.
Yeah,
I know.
That's okay. I took
But,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
So did you.
Yeah. This is a tough one, Coach. Like, hey, do you have like the wild card race on your computer? Like, can you share it on the screen so we can see?
Yeah. Right now,
I think
you
that'd
have
be
the
good.
Islanders have 67, and then Florida 64, Pittsburgh 63, Detroit 62, Washington 62, Buffalo 60.
But it's like, see, it's so dumb that the NHL doesn't have winning percentage instead of just points, right? Because that's really what matters. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think Washington has 3 more games played, I think, than
Right
some
now,
of the other
Pittsburgh
teams. Like,
is in the wild card by winning percentage.
By winning
Okay.
percentage over Florida, yeah. Both
Yeah.
the Islanders have played 61, Florida 60,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh 56, so they have the advantage there. Detroit 56. Washington's at 59.
Yeah. Okay. So based on that, like, yeah, like I'm a little concerned for Washington on that one. And Florida, like I listen, like they've been, if you watch Florida, like they have been playing like hard, like, you know, they're playing like as hard as they can. They're coming back in games kind of like similar to last year, but they're going to run out of juice here at some point. Like they just, I don't think have the personnel to do it. I think the Isles, I'm a little concerned about their games played, and I don't like that Barzell is going to be out for at least close to the end of the season here. So I don't disagree, and I yeah, like I think yeah, like I don't mind Detroit. Like something about Detroit, like they brought in those guys. I wouldn't be surprised. Like Yzerman's not going to go insane here and spend a whole lot of assets, but wouldn't surprise me if Yzerman throws that team a little bone just to try to really make a run. I think you're right about Buffalo coach and or Intertap. Like I don't think that they're ready to quite get there yet, but what a great story. Like finally for Buffalo playing some meaningful games and for the first time in what, like 10 years?
Yeah.
It's been at least 10 years that they've been playing for a wild card spot, right? So good story there. So if I had to guess, I would right now I would probably guess Pittsburgh and Detroit. Oh, now just to be nice to Intertap, you put Islanders back on the board. Okay. That's how it works.
We have two factors we have to count here. Islanders and Florida, unfortunately, play most of the game, like 4 and 5 game over Detroit, Ottawa, Buffalo. And that's not helping them. Washington, I think they don't go nowhere. Pittsburgh is a team I think really surprised me. Inconsistency. When they are all in, they are in. When they are bad, they are bad. I think there's other factor we said to you for those 16 we talk about, right, is the trade deadline. If one of the team adds someone we don't expect, I don't have no words right now, but example like Chikran go Ottawa or Meyer go to any other team, or Kavrikov go to Boston, but they are not there. But just give you an idea, I don't know, national player like Detroit get another players, or the Ottawa get 2 players, change completely that's the standing of the Wildcat. I think they give a better chance. But right now, I have to go with Pittsburgh, with them and the Islanders. And I would say the only reason why Islanders is because
drinking the Kool-Aid. Drinking the Kool-Aid.
Marco, as long as they have Sorokin and a solid defense,
I get it.
You saw tonight 2-1 against a much better offensively minded team in Winnipeg.
Yeah. Listen, they'll be right there. I said that they'd fight for a wild card spot, and that's where they are. Yeah. We'll see.
The Danny's of Florida, but Florida are one of the worst right now of winning percentage. They will have to make a long run, and they cannot get that long run. And their schedule is going to be harder now. They got Anaheim last time, and they have another team this week. But after that, it's getting worse and worse, and that will be the biggest problem. And when you race like this, guys, remember, when you're a little bit behind, or maybe we can come back, it's because it happened last night. Detroit win, Buffalo lose. So every time you win a game, you feel good. But you lose one game, you go back again. It's the same spot at the end of the night. So that's happening about this.
And
so
they're playing their players too, like they're relying on their big players too much. Like if you watch those games, like they're Kachuk and Barkov, and they're playing too many minutes. Like it's just not sustainable to hold that level. Like they don't have the depth to be able to roll out game after game and stay competitive. I don't think.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely about this. We know we'll let you go, Marco. It's 10:30, but we're going to finish in our tap. The Coyotes just tied the game 1-1 against Calgary, by the way. So if you want to know more what's going on, we appreciate Marco for tonight. And we look forward to Sunday morning for the Ab Bronchi Sunday rendezvous.
Take care, Marco.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye. And that way, it's up here like this, Mr. Tap. It's pretty cool.
Into black space. There we go.
Yeah, we're going to try to get that one out. I don't know if I can do it. But anyhow, Mr. Nata, before we leave, we want to get some news because people talk about this in the chat. We have a trade earlier, and I want to get your comment before you go. Chicago got from the Ottawa Senator Nikita Zazev, a defenseman with a contract at $4.5 million for this year and the following year. They got a second round pick, 2023, 4-round pick, 2026. And Ottawa got the best player of on the NHL, the future consideration. Mr. Natap, what would be your assessment about that trade, by the way?
Mr. Future Considerations makes his rounds, I see. Coach, I think the writing's on the wall there. I think from Ottawa's perspective, they cleared out a contract that they did not want with Zaitsev. I think he was making $4.5 million, and they have him for another year beyond this year. In return, they get Chicago gets that. They need help on defense, so that'll be helpful. They also pick up 2 draft picks, which is essential for them. But more importantly for Ottawa, what they're getting, forget the future considerations, is they opened up some cap space to probably go after defensemen. Now, whether that's Chikrin or somebody else, that we don't know yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's their next move. So I would say from Chicago's perspective, they helped out for sure, and they picked up some draft picks, so that's a plus for them. And for Ottawa, hopefully whatever they have in plans with the trade, it'll work out in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely about that. Right now they have $4 million open up, but they have $7 million on the Norris on them. So you have about $10 million they can get with Ashton and with Forsberg, and I don't hold on. Not really, because they are not only ER, they're not a long term. So what happening there? They have still have $5 million you can play with that part of there. And they have 2 ways. If they don't get Shikran or something else at the trade deadline, they open up $5 million they can pay Tim Brinkat next season.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
that would be one way to get there. Secondly, Ottawa guys, they have first round pick this year, but no second and third round pick. And then this summer, so that was not easy. But Chicago, Mr. Tap, 13 picks for the next 2 years, round 1, round 2, and round 3. So Chicago right now, you can be blame them, but they turn around this table very well with the number of the pick, and that's not including Patrick Kane.
And they're starting to look like Arizona in terms of the accumulation of draft picks that they're getting.
You're absolutely right about that. So we'll be very interested Chicago what they're going to do. But again, this is a great trade for the Chicago Blackhawks for the development. Now, Adam Berger was in the chat talk about the Vegas. They make a trade earlier. We can go there. Adam, we apologize. Was talking about Montreal, and then I forgot you. But the Vegas Golden Knights got Desan Mayo for the Arizona Coyotes, and they got this trade and return a pick and a Shea Weber. About this. This is another way for 2 teams. One team right now need to open up their salary cap, and then other team need to get the regional minimum. And for the Vegas, they are right now on the process to add a solid players. They have $9 million open up with the Mark Stone injury, long-term injury. They have space right now. They make that trade too, of course, because they have to add Bronsoin in the lineup, Mr. Natap. So they are a little bit that reason they go that direction too. But again, I believe right there would be interesting to see the next move. If I ask you about one specific player, maybe which player you think they could go to the Vegas Golden Knights?
I'm thinking Kane. That would probably be the best suited for that. I won't rule out Meyer, but I think at this stage, Kane would help them most, because you got to figure out, even though Stone might come back for the playoffs, and so that contract won't count against them, then you have to worry about next year as well. So if you get Meyer, you have him more for the long term. Whereas Kane's contract expires at the end of this year, it helps him for the immediate future and into the playoffs. Whereas Meyer presents a salary cap issue yet again come October of 2023.
Yeah, they have like now $14 million, Mr. Top Vegas open up.
Yeah. They're going big, and don't be surprised if it's more than just one move. I could see them going in deep for, a quality top echelon kind of player, plus probably somebody that could help out on that third line.
Yeah, Barbashev could be one over there.
Right, exactly.
Now they can go with a guy like GVR to rent just a player for a couple of weeks if they cannot get Patrick Kane.
Yeah. I just think Kane has a lot more to offer.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. But if they don't want to get there because they don't want to give too much in return and they don't know, I think a lower cost. Exactly. That's the best description I can give it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would be the right way about that. Stu Pinazzo in the house.
Hey, Stu, welcome.
Really interesting, Mr. Tab, for the last couple of days, some team open up more their salary cap because sometimes the long-term injury reserve, and it will be another way to watch what they move. We still a couple 10 days right now for the trade deadline, so we're going to follow up this. We're going to be really over all the information we got. I don't have too much about that, Mr. Tab. I was going to talk about one more thing, but. The NHL trade deadline, Ottawa, Chicago, Vegas, Golden Knights. We just to make that trade. We just talk about this, and then my last subject was tonight. It was the NHL trade deadline update. Chick Run still out of the lineup, but still back to skating right now with the Arizona Coyotes. Patrick Kane, they still talking about him. Whatever 3 destinations: Edmonton, Dallas, and the team we just talked Vegas, but maybe another team could be surprised. But I think that's the 3 direction. Timo Meier is on injury reserve, but not like hurt badly. So they expect him maybe coming back. Meier could be another player, can be on the other direction. We talk maybe the New Jersey Devils, one of them, and then finally with the Jets, Kavrikov is really related to the Boston Bruins, Mr. Natap.
Yeah, I've been hearing that as well. The Boston Bruins.
You're absolutely right about this. Which is why you want Kane, one you can have. Let's check, Coach. Coach, are you making a wish list for the deadline? No. We talk a lot about the player on the board all the time, so we don't do a specific thing. I just send players left and right for prediction about this. If Lucy goes to Montreal, the place will catch up for her like a locker room and the church. They talk about this at some point. Lucy does not want to go to Montreal for sure. You have a clause anyway. They don't want to get there. Mr. Tap 1-1 Arizona. At the middle of the second period, it's a 26 shot versus 6.
Vejmelka. That's all I'm going to say. And Arizona has also been a little bit public in saying he's available if somebody wants him. We were talking about goalies before, Coach.
Yeah, too early for Montreal, but a team have a good.
How about Toronto?
No. Yeah, I understand your point of view, but a team like Pittsburgh could get 3 players from them. Lawson Cruz. Big Stad played with Pittsburgh before, so I don't know if they will hand back. But again, they can add Velmeka with that. I think that would be a good trade for them. I know players maybe Pittsburgh is looking for and nobody talk. This is completely out of the subject here. It's Adam Henrique. I think Henrique can bring some kind of depth on the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, he's having a good year too. Yeah.
19 goals, I believe he has. And the rumor, I will say to you, Mr. Natap, if I was Florida Panthers, do you know who I knocked the door?
Who?
Edmonton Oilers for Puljer Javi.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that Florida could look about him. for that. We'll be interested what happening with Kravtsov if Montreal can make some kind of trade at the trade deadline. We talked about earlier, a player like this could be joined that battle there. Great point for King of Gamer. Do you see Kovacevic and the Montreal future, Mr. Tap?
Yes, I definitely for next year. I mean, he's still young and he's got. I think he's surprised us all with the level that he's brought. Like he's had some real bummer games where he's made all sorts of mistakes. He's had a couple of games at -4. But I think until we can develop all of our players on defense, because eventually you're going to get guys like Hudson and Melu, and maybe a couple of others that have come up as well in the system. And so at that point, he then becomes the dispensable defenseman, right? But for now and moving forward, I think he's part of the team.
Short term, yes. Mid term,
Yes.
maybe. Long term, no. But he's still already 25, 26. He can become another Schoenemann for Montreal Canadiens or another Michael Stone, I would say, example, like a third pairing when you need it, and then a 7 defenseman in NHL. I think that was Kovacevic because Montreal going to get now Justin Barron and Logan Mailloux at some point. So a short term, okay. Mid term, yeah. But after that, will be gone.
Yeah.
A little bit what Chris
agree.
Whiteman is going to be. And when we talk about long term, we talk about 3 years and plus. Now he's going to be 29, 30 years old, Kovacevic.
That's right.
So I think, but it's a great wild card they got for Nathan. And that's happened. Someone talked about Pierre-Luc Dubois earlier, and I apologize. I don't know if it was Klein or someone like that, or I apologize for the people in the chat, guys. But again, we appreciate a lot. Mr. Nata, 43 likes. We still continue to go over 40 when we do those shows the night. I think it was great to having you aboard. And, of course, to have Marco Larabie. I think one time per week we conduct those kind of conversations and people join us live talking about the Montreal Canadiens. So glad to see that. Tonight, Montreal will be back Friday night again the Flyers, Saturday again Ottawa Senator. Very important game for at least for the Ottawa Senator again the Montreal Canadiens. We know they beat the Montreal last time by the score 5-0 at the Canadian Tire. Any other words you want to talk about? Something you want to add before you go?
No, I think that's about it, Coach. I think we hit on quite a few items for tonight, but next 10 days are going to be extremely interesting.
Yeah, talking about this, Mr. Tap, we're going to have a trade deadline information here. We're going to start the show around 11:30 the morning and going to go all the way to 3 o'clock. But you never stop at 3 o'clock. Why? Because a lot of conversation happen after 3 o'clock. We learn about this. Sometimes you have to go all the way to 4 o'clock p.m. That will give me 4 o'clock a.m. here, but it is what it is. Not big deal. We're going to go through that, Mr. Tap. About that, 28 shots versus 6, Mr. Luciano has mentioned about this. It's still 1-1 for Calgary.
They've been doing that all year, though, Lucky. They've been out shooting and outplaying teams by a wide margin. It's got to be in goalie, in net, that they have to hold them off.
Yeah, absolutely right. The Star winning 2-0, Mr. Tap. And again, that was again Jimmy Ben 23 goals this year. His final contract, by the way, so that's good. And then look like Luciano said 2-1 Arizona. Breakaway killer. Breakaway is coming out. I missed the net on it, but Arizona score on the back door of that turnover, and Arizona take the lead, Mr. Tap, 2-1.
There you go. Exactly
Unbelievable.
my point.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Canadiens went out beat the Denver. Good news. We have no.
Coach, if Calgary loses this game, the wheels are coming off the bus.
We don't have no gel tomorrow anyway. So.
No, not our bus. The proverbial bus in Calgary, because this is unforgivable. They cannot lose this game.
Yep. Danev did not cover his man in front of the net there. Oh no, Danev scored his goal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Daniel just sent the puck in the net. On the rebound. Boom.
Even better.
Wow.
Hey, watch.
Wow. Daniel maybe have some kind of money under the table for the reason Canadiens, Mr. Tap. We don't know. We have something we have to send Danny investigate about that situation, Mr. Tap, about this.
Danny.
So, really interesting what happening here, Mr. Tap. 29 shot versus 7, 2 goal and 7 shot. Wow. It's really, really crazy to watching the Calgary Flame this year.
It's frustrating, is what it is.
Absolutely right about
As
that.
I'm sure Randy would attest to.
Yep. We wish you an amazing, great night, Mr. Altap. And we thank you so much.
Coach.
Again, you join us. We'll be back tomorrow together at 6 o'clock p.m. for, I think we have 10 game on the program tomorrow, 9 game, I think.
Yeah, it's a busy night. I think it's 9, but we'll check it out and see.
And Lucien is going to be a very difficult night, so to select players.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to really pay attention what you're going to say tomorrow, Mr. Altap.
Oh, why? I haven't predicted them very well the last 2 weeks.
Well, that's all right.
Unfortunately. Yeah, it's all right.
The good news is tomorrow we're going to select the right way.
That's the way to think about it. Good.
We wish you an amazing, great night, Mr. Altap.
Good night, Coach. Good night, Hockey Nation.
Here we go, guys. It was Mr. Enartab and Marco Rabi with me tonight for the great roundtable. We will be back tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, talking about the NHL around the league. And then the continuous, we're talking about a little bit the overtime, Montreal, the game we got tomorrow night, and NHL. Definitely back with the Montreal Friday night against the Flyers. That's concluded, guys, the new concept of the HABS Nation Live Tonight show we bring here on the table every single time when the Montreal does not play. That's maybe the best place to come here and talking about the Montreal Canadiens. We try to bring you some fun kind of subject. I think tonight was pretty cool to talk about the development. Martin St. Louis talking about the Justin Barron, the Montreal Canadiens trade deadline we can use, who cannot be traded, who can be traded, and definitely talking about the transparency about the injuries from the staff management for the Montreal Canadiens. So I think we got very good stuff here tonight. We thank each one of you and the chat to be with us tonight. We ask if you don't mind to click on the likes before you knock the door. And the Star take the lead 3-0 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Sorry, Nick, to let you know that. But before we leave, we want to thank one more time all the moderators at the Hockey Nation Show. You know who you are. Thanks so much. And then, of course, all the members support the Hockey Nation Show. Thanks so much for you to become a member of the channel. Until next time. You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. From Newfoundland to Finland to Denver to go Drake. The Coyotes, guys, just scored a third goal, 3-1 Arizona against the Calgary Flame. Unbelievable. What's going on with that? Until then, my friend, be well, BL. Find a way not only dominate your day, find a way to dominate the first half of what? 2023. Have an amazing, great night, everybody. See you tomorrow night.